Okay, great. Finally, we've passed the little glitch we had. All right. Thank you for your responses, everyone. I'm glad everyone can hear me now. So, here is a little something. You were here in the lobby. We had sent your way some content which you had to go through, some videos, some lessons on the topic for today that were intended to help you make best use of the session. So, the links were already there. If you did not get a chance to see them already, then make sure you go through those files after our session today. That'll help you understand whatever we're doing today in a bit better way. It'll just, clarify any small doubts, any small confusions that you may have even after the session. But my goal would be to try to eliminate all your confusion about this topic today. Now, I would also like to take this opportunity to tell you about upcoming webinars that we have. We keep doing this every weekend to give you the best possible practice so that you never lose touch. You always have a helping hand around. So, upcoming free webinars, here is the detail. You have one on Saturday, March 20 and Sunday, March 21 as well. You have a free GMAT strategy webinar on 20th March 20, which will help you strategize your performance. Sometimes we just don't know what is it that we're doing wrong. Why is it that our scores are not improving? Well, come here and you'll get your answers. Then on Sunday, you have a free GMAT geometry webinar. So geometry is a topic I've seen many people super confused about. Sometimes they feel, oh, I know geometry, but the other time, again, things happen and a question comes and they're like, oh, I'm not so sure. So I think I knew the concepts, but when it comes to questions, I'm confused. So this Sunday, we'll try to remove your confusions about geometry. Now, here was a little poll we had for you, which was the question was, when do you plan to take the GMAT? If you haven't already put in your responses, please put in your responses here. What I see right now is that 9% of us are taking it in the next 15 days, okay, 10%, and then 19% in 16 to 30 days, 7% 31 to 45. We have a fairly nicely distributed group here today. And 41% of you, the majority, has the test beyond 75 days. Well, let me tell you one thing, no matter which bracket you're a part of, you are at the right place today. Whether your test is in 15 days or in 75 days, we are going to give you the direction, the correct way to work with algebra problems. This is bound to help you. Make sure to make best use of the session, keep a pen and paper ready, write down all confusions you have, and ask your doubts away. Whatever confusions you might have, ask them. We have Vipul here, an e-GMAT expert with us today, who's going to help us, who's going to support us. I see Dennis. I can hear you. Please turn off your, I don't know how the microphone is on. All right, thank you. Yes, so Vipul will be supporting us today. He will be answering a lot of your questions that I will not get the chance to answer myself. So let's get started, everyone. I will open the presentation screen and I will again bring in the yes no pod. Please tell me when you can see the presentation. You should see Algebra Quant live session. Tell me when you can see it, please. All right, thank you. Thank you for your votes. We can all see the presentation now. So this is what we're going to do today. Thank you for your answers. Let's get started. Tell me one thing before I start in the short answer pod here. Short answer pod is where you talk to me. Any questions I directly ask you, you will answer me here. You will also see the Q&A pod on your screen, which is where you can ask any technical questions you might have or any other questions about the solutions we discuss that Vipul will answer. So the short answer pod is for answers that you give to me. So my first question to all of you is, how do you feel about algebra as a whole and about inequalities in specific? Tell me in the short answer pod. Yes, I will repeat the question. The question was, how do you feel in general about algebra and specifically about inequalities? How do you think you are with those concepts? How is your conceptual understanding about this? People who are experiencing any sound glitches, you can try rejoining because my connection status here says it's excellent. So please try one more time. Maybe it'll work. Okay. Understanding is medium. Some people say it's fairly confident. Then I have average, fairly good, all right, good to better, somewhere on the way. One person says confident. Wow. So we have a nice mix here. But the average answer, the overall answer I get is average. That means you would rate yourself just at an average level with these topics, and it's pretty natural. These topics, inequality specifically, can be intimidating. So just relax today. Let's go slowly with this. Let's take this nicely, and I'll ask you the same question one more time towards the end, and I hope your answers will have changed from average to good. So here in this session, the first thing I'd like to tell you is this: only 6% of people who take the GMAT score 720 plus. So 6%, think about it. You have 100 people taking the test, and only 6 of them will manage this much. Wonderful. That's perfect. So here then, we're all ready to go into the warm-up section. As I said, warm-up questions are going to be easy. So these are basic questions on algebra. We will be giving you feedback on your current conceptual knowledge. Application comes second, but first it's about knowing what the concepts are. Once you know the concepts, if you don't know application, even then you're at a loss. So both things have to go together. The solutions will be there, but the discussion will not be too heavy, too detailed, because these are easy questions. Now here, get a pen and paper and tell me in the yes no pod when you're ready for some warm up. Great energy, everybody. Keep this up throughout the session, and you're going to enjoy the session a lot. Now, I am going to bring in the questions, but before I bring in this first one, I will give you some simple rules. You will see here an answer board that I've brought. The options that this has are A, B, C, D, and still solving. So if you mark still solving, then that is your way of telling me that you're ready for the question. And suppose 50 people mark still solving. Then the moment 80% of those 50 people who were ready for the question, the moment 80% of you give your answers, mark your answers, I will start discussing the solution. So that way you are the people who are determining the pace of the session. I will not give you set timers. It will depend on how quickly you do it. I hope you understand how this is going to work. I see somebody's mic is on. Please put all of your mics off. Please check, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. It's done. So I am opening the poll. Please mark still solving to show me you're ready for question one. More participation, please. We have 82 people here. I want at least 70 people to say they're ready for this first question. We have 44 still solvings yet. All right, already at 50 people. Come on, 20 more people. You have to be engaged to, really make best use of the session.
Done, done, done.
All right, here I'm going to show you question number one. Good luck, everybody. Please mark your answers here. 5 more seconds and I'll end the poll. Please make sure you put in your answers before I end the poll. Ending in 3, 2, 1. All right, so here I ended the poll. Let me just see what the responses are. So 75% of you, 75% of you, just a okay. Yes, so the results we have here, can everybody hear me? Yes, yes. Okay, thank you. So the results that we have here are 75% of you marked option B, which is the correct answer. So good going, everybody. The beginning is pretty strong. Let's start discussing this first answer. So what did we have here? What is the range of values of y if 4y plus 10 is greater than minus y? So how we solve this is we get all the variables on one side and the constants, the numbers on the other side. So as a first step, what we do is we try to get the y's all together. So you had 4y on the left hand side and negative y on the right hand side. So what you do is you just add y to both sides. When you move something to the other side, you really change the sign as you do that. Or you can think of adding both sides, adding y on both sides. So the right hand side will become 0, while the left hand side will become 5y plus 10. Now your goal is to remove the 10 from here. So how do you remove the 10? Well, now what you have to do is you have to subtract 10 on both sides. So when you subtract 10 from the left side of this inequality, this 10 will just vanish. It'll become 10 minus 10 equal to 0. While on the right hand side, it'll become 0 minus 10, which is minus 10. So that will take you to this stage here. Finally, to be able to get the y, all you have to do is divide both sides by 5. And when you divide the left side by 5, you're left with just y. While when you divide minus 10 by 5, you get minus 2. And that's it. You got this easily done. I will now open the poll again for question number 2. You have to quickly mark still solving to tell me you're ready. And the moment I have enough still solvings, I will show you the next question. Okay, we already have 41 people who marked it. Come on. You know the rules. We have to have at least 60, 65 people ready for solving the question at any time. A little more participation. All right, we're at 50 already. The question is coming up now. Good luck, everyone. 5 more seconds before I end the poll. Please make sure you answer. Ending the poll in 3, 2, 1. All right. So, what are the results? Okay, wow, we have 67% of you marking option B, which is correct again. So, yet again, the majority, a big majority, is already correct. But let's make sure we get the other 33% also to understand this. So, here let's discuss this solution properly. What is the range of values of y if, and you have two inequalities given? One of them is x minus y greater than minus 3. The other one is minus 2x plus 3y greater than 4. So you have the same variables in both of them. You have x and y only, but the coefficients, the numbers that you have with your variables are different. Well, how do you solve this? I'm pretty sure a lot of you are comfortable solving systems of equations, but this is inequalities. Well, the rules are not very different. Let's understand this. So here's your first inequality, x minus y greater than minus 3, and here is your second inequality. What you try to do is, since you want to find out the value of y, your goal should be to somehow try to eliminate the x from here. Now, how do you eliminate x? How you eliminate x is you make x the same number in both of them. So somehow, if you see minus 2 here, then you should try for 2 here. Why we're really doing that is because minus 2 and 2, when you will add them, you will get 0. So that's the whole idea of elimination. So what you do is, how do you make the coefficient of x 2 in this first inequality? You will multiply the entire inequality by 2. Simple. So the left side will become 2x minus 2y and the right side will become minus 6. And nothing will change about the sign of the inequality. See, it stays the same. Well, the second inequality anyway, I did not want to change. That was already with my minus 2. Now just observe the coefficients that you have for x. You have 2 and minus 2. So them because they're the same, and then again I will be able to eliminate my x's. As for the y's, I will have minus 2 plus 3, which is just a y, and greater than what? Minus 6 plus 4, which is minus 2, and that is why the answer here is B part. Please tell me, everybody who did not get this answer correct the first time, tell me in the yes no pod if you've understood how this. Perfect, perfect. This is great. So even people who got this wrong earlier, if they're now on the same page as the rest of us, we're going correct. We're going in the right direction. So here I bring in the poll back. You know the drill. You have to mark still solving to tell me you are ready for the next one. All right, here is warm-up question number 3. Good luck, everyone. I'll be ending the poll in another 10 seconds. Please make sure you put in your answers before then. And here we end the poll. Okay, the results this time are interesting. We have quite a divided group. Yes, option A is just 10%, but B and C are pretty close. So the majority, 42%, went with option C, which is 3, and that is the correct answer. So good going again, but it's a smaller majority this time. A lot of people, 27% of you, went with option B, and as I said, 10% went with option A as well. So we can say 37% of you went with A or B, while 42% was with C. So you see 37 and 42, that way you'll see that the correct and the incorrect group, they're very close together. So this one, clearly you had more confusions than you had previously. Now, before I show you the solution, let me tell you how this is progressing from the previous question. In the previous question as well, you had two inequalities, right? And what is the takeaway you had? The takeaway was that we can add inequalities if they have the same sign. Now, here what I see is both my inequalities are greater than inequalities, so yes, I can add them. But if I add them, what will happen? Will it serve the purpose? Will it do what I want, what the question wants me to do or not? Let's see. Question wants you to find how many non-negative integral values of m do the two inequalities satisfy. So we want to find values of m, and as you know, when you have values of m to find, you don't want n. So if you don't want n, you try to eliminate it. And when you'll add both of these, you will be able to eliminate it. Why? Because you have negative n and n. So the number with them, the coefficient with them is -1 and 1, which will help you cancel those two. So tell me in the yes no pod, if you had reached this much of an analysis, that means you were sure that it had to be elimination that could take you to your answer. Okay, so around 90% of you did know that this was the way to go, but 10% of you did not reach this far. So I hope all of us are now on the same page till here. I'll tell you where the next faltering point could be. This was stage one, not making the progress. Now, as I said, you could add them, and if you do add them, you will be able to eliminate the ends. That is what I'm showing here. So what you have is minus 4m plus 10 is greater than 0. So what you do is, if you just subtract 10 on both sides, you will get minus 4m greater than minus 10. Now tell me honestly, how many of you from this stage had gone to 4m greater than 10? Wow, a lot of you did this mistake. A lot of you just went to 4m greater than 10 from minus 4m greater than minus 10. So 70% of you made that mistake. So here is a very important point. Look at this takeaway point number 2. Sign of inequality. Sign of inequality changes when it is multiplied by a negative number. Till now, everything we did, nothing affected our inequality at all. If it was greater than, it stayed greater than. If it was less than, it stayed less than. But here, from minus 4m greater than minus 10, if you're dividing both sides by minus 1, which is a negative number, the inequality should flip. So it should not be this, it should be this. Tell me in the yes no poll if you understand what I said. Perfect, perfect. And once you got that, if 4m is less than 10, now after this, the step was not any different. We just had to divide both sides by 4. And when you divide both sides by 4, you get m less than 2.5. Now tell me how many of you reached till here? And if not, I'm opening the short answer pod as well. Tell me, till this stage that I've discussed, where is it that you faltered? So this is for people who had made a mistake till this stage, who had already made a mistake. Tell me what, okay, forgot to flip the sign, okay? The sign of the inequality, the change in the sign. Okay, so many people made this mistake till this stage about the minus sign. Good. So you have identified one problem area in your conceptual understanding already. We've just begun the session and you have identified something. Now make sure you make a note of this. Write it anywhere that when this point that you had with the takeaway, that sign changes. Because if this is a mistake you made today, you probably can make this again the next time you sit with a question like this, and it will hurt your accuracy, right? So take care of this. Some people say it's silly mistakes, silly calculation errors, and a lot of people, again, as I said, worked with the inequality sign change problem. Now I'll tell you one more problem stage here. When m is less than 2.5 and we wanted to know integral values. First of all, tell me in the yes no pod, how many of you knew what integral values are? Okay, I see a lot of no's as well. Right now, the results that I have, 21% of you did not know what integral, 23 that went higher. Integral values, this word comes from integer. So when it's an integer, 1, 2, 3, or 0, or -1, -2, -3, those are all integers. That means m cannot be a decimal. Now, with that understanding, if it's less than 2.5, and if it did not say anything about non-negative and all, then it could have been everything which is 2 or lower than 2. 1, 0, -1, -2, -3. Now, all of those people who marked option B, they did not consider 0. Do you all realize what happened here? Do you realize what went wrong? Tell me in the short answer pod, why did you think you missed this? You directly related non-negative with positive, right? That's what happened. Tell me if this is where you made a mistake. Yes, yes. Timing pressure. Okay. I forgot 0 as a value. Yes, so a lot of you forgot 0. All right. So non-negative just means, let me just break this down. It's not negative. So something which is not negative does not have to be positive. Something which is not negative can be positive, yes, but it can also be 0. So that is where you missed it, and the answer for this one is 3. So we found some faltering points, some places where people have problems. First was this meaning, integral values. Then you had what non-negative means. Then you had this sign change, and yeah, I think that's all we had for this one. Elimination had come from the previous one. Now you have more tools in your arsenal. You have three more things that you learned from this question. Are you ready to apply all of this on the next question now? Do you already feel more confident about the next one? That's perfect. That's beautiful. That's exactly what we want you to feel. You have to just get more and more confident with every single question. Here is your answer poll. Please mark still solving to tell me you're ready, and I'll show you the next question. Still solving, growing at a very slow rate. Do not tell me you're already tired. Come on, show some energy. More still solving, please. Because this is the group I consider active participants in the session. And this is the group that will determine the accuracy and everything. I'm sure you want to be a part of the determining group. not just the observing group. Okay. All right, great. Here's question 4, everyone. Good luck. Ten more seconds before I end the poll. Please mark in your answers before that time. All right. Okay. So the results are here. The majority, 59% of you, went with option C, which is the correct answer. So congratulations. The next majority, the next highest majority, went with option A, 17% of you. Well, just observe one thing between options A and C before I discuss anything at all. Here, do you observe that A and C are really just opposite of each other? So somebody who marked option A marked exactly the opposite of what had to be marked. People who marked option A, do you see that already? Tell me in the short answer pod if you see that this is where you made a mistake. You just found the opposite answer. Yes. So you realize that this is what happened. This is a good habit to form, that before you submit your answer, you should always check one more time that you're answering for the correct thing. Whatever was asked in the question, that's exactly what you're giving to it. Well, let's discuss this together, and let's get the other 41% on the same page as us. So what is the range of x for this inequality? So there's this product of two numbers, x minus 2 and x minus 3, and these two numbers that we're multiplying, we want the product to be positive, right? So what we'll do here is we will just use our conceptual understanding, which is when you multiply two positive numbers, the result is positive. If we multiply two negative numbers, even then the result is positive. So that is the understanding we use here, that when is the product going to be positive? It is going to be positive if both positive or both negative. Now let me work with case 1 here. If x minus 2 is positive, I know what to do with such simple inequalities. I just have to add 2 on both sides. I will get x greater than 2. Similarly, if I solve x minus 3 greater than 0, I will get x greater than 3. Now what do we have here? We have x greater than 2 and x greater than 3. There's this and between them. Both of them had to be positive, right? So what do you understand if x is greater than 2 as well as greater than 3? Well, it means x is greater than 3. You don't even need to say it's greater than 2, because something which is already greater than 3 is automatically greater than 2 as well. Case 2, both of them negative. X minus 2 negative will give you x is less than 2, and x minus 3 negative will give you x is less than 3. Remember, you still have an and in between them, which means x is less than 2 as well as less than 3. Now, do you even need to say both these things? No, If x is less than 2 and less than 3, it's enough to say it's less than 2. Then it'll automatically be less than 3. So what you have is from case number 1, you have that x is greater than 3, and from case 2, you have that x is less than 2. Now be very careful here. What do you really have in between these two? So what you have here is that this thing happens. I mean, either both of them are positive or both of them are negative. So there's this or between the two. That means x is greater than 3 or x is less than 2. Both of these are possible solution ranges. So everything greater than 3 has just been written as 3 to infinity. That means you can go as high as you want. And everything less than 2 has been written this way, which means it's everything from minus infinity till 2. So every number, no matter how small, both of these ranges, both of these constitute or form the complete range of values of x. Tell me in the yes no pod if you all understand how this question worked and how we just use basic positive times positive, negative times negative to get the answer. Perfect, perfect. Now, before I go to warm up question number 5, I want to give you one more method for doing question 4, which is when you have inequalities to solve, inequalities that have a power greater than 1. This is a quadratic inequality. When you multiply these, you will get x squared. You will get x to the power 2. So it's a quadratic inequality. What do we do in such cases? We have a method called the wavy line method, which can make work very easy for you. So listen to this very carefully. First of all, tell me in the short answer pod if you already know what the wavy line method is, and if not, be ready to have some fun here. Okay, so no, most of you say you don't know the method. We have two or three yeses also. One person says yes, thanks to CBSE. Nice. All right, most of you do not know the method. So I'll explain this and then we'll see how this can really help us. All right, so going to the question again, we had this product that we wanted to be positive. Now, what you have to do is you have to think of the two places where these two factors are going to be 0. So if x minus 2 is 0, then the value of x there will be what? It'll be 2. Similarly, if x minus 3 is equal to 0, then the value of x there will be 3. So what I do by this, by putting the two factors equal to 0 is, I get these 2 points that I have to plot on a number line. These 2 points we call the break points or the 0 points. Okay, so 0 points simply for the sake because they give you the values of x where it is going to be 0. Now, what do I do after that? So, according to whatever I've said till now, all we have is a number line on which we have 2 and 3 marked. Now, what you have to do? Think about this first region, that is the leftmost region, which is x less than 2. Okay, x less than 2. Now, if x is less than 2, can you tell me the sign of this product? I'm opening the short answer pod. Tell me what is the sign of this product going to be if x is less than 2. Okay, so I see a lot of divided answers here. All right. We see a lot of positives and a lot of negatives, which means you people are not very sure how to check the sign in a certain range. Well, it's really, really simple. First of all, these 0 points that you mark, these are so smart, these are so helpful points that in the three regions that they create, region 1, less than 2, region 2, which is between 2 and 3, and region 3, which is all those values that are greater than 3. In each of these regions, the sign of my expression will stay constant. What that means is, in this entire leftmost region, x less than 2, my expression is going to have a single sign, either positive or negative. Now, how I can determine that is, I can take any one number from this range. Take anything that is less than 2. For example, I take 0. 0 is less than 2. Just plug in 0 into this. Now tell me what will be the sign. Tell me in the short answer pod, what will be the sign if I put x as 0? Perfect. All of you now are saying it's going to be positive. Well, that's how you determine it. You can take any one test point. It's a test point, a point that I used to get the sign. Now, if it's positive here, for the wavy line method really gets its name from this wave that we draw, the wave that we've drawn. Now, how do you start drawing this wave? You start from whatever happens in the leftmost region. If it's positive, you start your wave from above the number line, as we've started here. And then you just go through your break point or your 0 point and keep making this transition. So here you go below the wavy line. The moment you reach the 0 point, from there you again go above the wavy line. If I had another 0 point here, my wave would look something like, let me try and draw that for you. My wave would look something like this. So the next 0 point, I would again go back down. Tell me in the yes no pod if you understand how the wavy line is only about where to start. After that, you constantly just keep alternating it. You should know where to start. If you start from below the number line, then you keep going this way. If you start from above the number line, you go this way. So it's only about where you start. Tell me if you understand. Wonderful. So a lot of us now understand. The people who don't, we will see more questions. Don't worry. This will get very, very clear once we see more questions. So at this stage, I am bringing in the question board. Please mark still solving to show me you're ready for warm-up question number 5. All right, come on. We have 36 people here who've said they're ready, and we have 84 participants. 10 more people say still solving, and I'll show you the next question. All right. Good luck, everyone. Here's question number 5. 15 seconds before I end the poll, please make sure you mark your answers. All right, so we have the results here. 49% of you, so almost half of the people who were voting, marked option C, which is the correct answer. So good job there. The next largest percentage went to option D, which is again the very opposite of what you had in option C. So 22% of people marked option D. Tell me in the yes no pod if you people already realize that this is what you did. You just gave the opposite answer despite having seen that in a previous question. Yeah, so we have yeses. We've already identified another problem. Well, make sure you take the learnings from a previous question to the next one. This is what growth is all about, right? We learn from our mistakes and we then make those mistakes never again. So that is what growth is all about. So make sure you don't repeat your mistakes that way. Think about not having overlooked that one fact. A lot of you, in fact, the majority, then a huge majority, 80% around, would have been with option C. Well, with this happy note that we could have done this if we were a little careful, let's discuss this solution here. So what you have is what is the range of values of this? This has to be less than 0 this time. Now, in the previous question, what we had was we had a product of numbers, but now we have a quotient of numbers. How do we deal with this? So, what we are doing is look carefully. If I multiply both the sides by x plus 4, a lot of you probably thought of doing that. You thought of multiplying both sides by whatever the denominator is, and just getting rid of the denominator. Tell me if you did that in the yes no poll. Okay, so it's 50-50. Half of you did that, half of you did not do that. So if you did that, let me tell you why that is incorrect. If you multiply both sides by x plus 4, do you know the sign of x plus 4? If x plus 4 is a positive number, then yes, you multiply and nothing changes with your inequality. You will have x minus 3 less than 0. But if x plus 4 is a negative number, then according to the rule that we saw earlier, if you multiply a negative number on both sides of an inequality, it flips. That means in that case, your inequality would have become x minus 3 greater than 0. So you see how this is heavily dependent on what the sign of x plus 4 is. So I cannot multiply both sides by x plus 4. How do I just be very safe about this? The whole problem is that I don't know whether it's positive or negative. So a quick way out is that you multiply by x plus 4 whole squared. Now I can be sure it's positive. Now, if you're thinking a square can be 0 as well, it cannot be 0 here because it's in the denominator. You're not allowed to have 0 in the denominator. That means if you multiply both sides by x plus 4 whole squared, which is a positive number, your sign will not change. You'll be safe. So if you do that, you will land at this. Now, this is very similar to what we had in the previous question. And then the wavy line method, yet again, you plot your 0 points, which is minus 4 and 3. You have both of them on the number line. You start from the leftmost range, take any number which is less than minus 4. Say you take minus 5. So you have minus 5 plus 4, which is minus 1, multiplied by minus 5 minus 3, which is minus 8. So you have minus 1 times minus 8. So it's a positive 8, a positive number. That's why you start above the number line. And then, as I said, all you have to do is alternate it from up to down, and so on. So this is the number line you have. And our final question, remember, was to have it negative. So it's negative when it is below the number line. So where is it really below the number line? that happens in this range from -4 to 3. Tell me in the yes no pod if you're all comfortable with this now. All right, perfect, perfect. We're all ready for warm up question number 6 now. I'll bring in the poll. Mark still solving to tell me you're ready. Okay, moving on to the last warm up question, everybody. Good luck. Ten seconds before I end the poll. Please mark your answers. Okay, all right. So here are the results. We have 66% of you who marked C, which is the correct answer. So good going there. The next majority, small majority, was with option A, 13%, and 7% went with option D as well. Okay, and 5% went with B as well. So this time we had answers, we had people voting for each of the four options. But yes, the majority went with the correct option, which is C. Let's start discussing this. What we really have is an absolute value inequality this time. So, this is the first time you're seeing an absolute value here. Be very careful. Look what we're doing. Absolute value or mod of x plus 3 is less than equal to 5. To just simplify how this looks, I'm going to substitute this x plus 3 by z. So what you have is mod of z is less than equal to 5. So z is a number whose absolute value is less than or equal to 5. Tell me in the short answer pod if you understand what absolute value is and how we came from this less than equal to 5 to this range of z between -5 and 5 inclusive. That's perfect. So all of you know how this works. Very good. We can now move on. So if you know we substituted x plus 3 by z, so that means I can put my z back as x plus 3. And then what I have to do ultimately is I have to find the value of x, not x plus 3. So what I do is I will subtract 3 on both sides, on all three sides in fact. So on the left side, if I subtract 3, I get -8. In the center, if I subtract 3, I get just x. And here on the right hand side, if I subtract 3, I get 2. So which is exactly what you have, minus x less than equal to -8 less than equal to x less than equal to 2. So here at this stage, tell me if everybody understands this, how this works, and tell me if you have any confusions about this particular point. I'll try to clarify your confusion still here. Please type in the short answer pod only if you have a confusion about this. If nothing, we'll move on positively. All right. So let me also help you understand how we got from this 5 to this range and how that relates to the number line that we have. Listen very carefully. You wanted a number z whose absolute value was 5 or less. So where is the absolute value of a number 5, first of all? That happens at these two places, -5 and 5. And then if this is where it is 5, where is the absolute value going to be less than 5? So basically you want the number to be numerically smaller than 5. Numerically smaller means you ignore the sign, just focus on the magnitude, and that should be smaller than 5. So that will happen for all of these positive integers and for all of these negative integers as well. But since my question does not say that x has to be an integer really, it is everything in this range, everything from -5 to +5, even a -3.5 or 1.22, just about anything. So we can have anything here in this range from -5 to 5, which is going to satisfy this. The same thing when we observe this approach here, what we're doing here is observing something very specific, something related to distance between 2 points. Now focus, because the next question, the next way of approaching this is going to be directly related to the distance. So what you have is the absolute value of z is less than equal to 5, means the distance of z from 0 is less than equal to 5. So the distance from 0, I've marked 0 here in orange, it's an orange point here. The distance from this little point should be 5 or less. So either you go 5 units to the right, or you go 5 units to the left, or you stay somewhere in between. So you can read absolute value of a single variable like this. Distance of z from 0 is less than equal to 5. I hope we all understand this method. Now here it's exactly the same. This time what I'll do is, instead of going to the z, I will directly try to solve this one. What you have to do is, the rule here is that the distance, whenever you say distance from something, it has to be represented with a minus sign. For example, in this previous one, when I had z, it's actually something like this: absolute value of z minus 0. If I write this, it's not any different from absolute value of z. It's exactly the same thing. This minus that I put, it helps me say the from that I'm saying, distance from 0. So here in my case, if I come to this final solution I had, this one here, which meant distance of x from something is between -5 and 5. Observe this number line very carefully. If you see the orange part, -3, and you go 5 units to the right, you will reach 2. And if you go 5 units to the left, you will reach -8. And those are exactly the two end points of our final answer. So the 3 that we are getting is coming from here. But instead of taking the distance from 3, I am taking the distance from -3. Why? Because of the small rule that I just said, that if you want to write the distance, the from really will be read with a minus. So I can say it's distance of x minus of -3. And then if I read this, this becomes the distance of x from -3. So make sure you understand this point. I am reading this minus sign as a from. And the second solution that we have here is corely based on that principle only. So you have distance of x from -3, because the plus had to be changed to a minus to get in your from, and then distance from -3 is 5 or less. You go 5 to the right, you reach 2, 5 to the left, you reach -8, and you have the answer straight away without going into any z's whatsoever. Tell me in the yes no poll if this is clear to you. Let me clear the answers from the previous poll first. Give me 1 second. Yes, please tell me if you see the distance approach. That is perfect. Perfect. So for people, I've read some comments in the short answer pod that I didn't open the short answer pod for a question. As I said, short answer pod is for you to respond to questions that I directly ask you. For other questions that you might get in the discussion of our solutions, you have the Q&A pod for that, and Vipul is responding to that. I can see queries come, and within seconds, he's resolving them. Short answer pod is for you and I to talk when I ask you a direct question. Again, to repeat what I said, any other questions you might have, feel free to post them in the Q&A pod. Now with this, we are done with the warm-up section. So make sure you have 200% clarity in your concepts. If there's any lag in the conceptual understanding you have, you will face problems with such questions. These were easy questions, but every single question really gave you something more, something extra. You had the absolute value towards the end, you had the distance approach, you saw what happens when you have inequalities, when you flip the signs, when you don't flip the signs, everything should be super clear in your head. If you scored less than 100%, that means if you got any question wrong here, we suggest you revise from the recommended concepts, the files that we shared with you. GMAT questions require a much higher level application of these concepts. So if these are still a little problematic, then you should spend more time on this and build that 200% clarity and get ready for the next stage. Tell me how we all feel about algebra or inequalities after the warm-up section. What is it that you've learned right now that you were not sure of or that you did not know earlier? Now this is time for us to talk. So the short answer pod is open. Yes, it's a refresher. So sometimes our concepts get rusted, after maybe years of seeing them. If we don't see them, it happens. We don't remember a lot of things. Yes, the basics are better, feel better. In wavy curve, we start from the right. No, wavy curve, you check the leftmost region. It's not really a rule, you can start from the rightmost region as well, but you have to make sure you check the sign in that first region and go accordingly. All right, some people feel incredible. This is very good. Distance concept and wavy curve was fairly new. Wonderful. So, okay, what difference from drawing up to down, down to up? It makes no difference, as I said. Everything depends on where you start the wavy line from. Once you know where to start, you just have to alternate up, down, up, down, up, down. If you start from up, you go down, obviously. But if you start from below the number line, obviously you will go up. So you have to alternate. You just have to know where to start. I can see, okay, somebody says, I remember studying this topic 10 years back. Okay, I'm sure it must have been confusing when you first saw it. Okay, confident, bring on the difficult ones. Okay, great. That's what I was looking for. I was looking for that energy for more. Before we show you more questions, here is a little something I would like to talk to you about. Sometimes, as I said in the beginning of the session also, it happens, we try a lot, but somehow we find it very hard to get that score that we want because we don't know where we should be working. Sometimes we keep studying, say, algebra, while what we are struggling with really is arithmetic, or we're studying arithmetic, but we are actually struggling with algebra. So, to get that understanding of what you should do, sometimes it depends on your personal level of comfort with the subject. So you need a personalized study plan, not something that is for the masses, that is for everybody. What you can do is you can work with our certified strategy expert to get your personalized study plan. You can book a call. Limited slots are there on first come, first serve basis. So make sure you book a call and not miss this opportunity to get the last few points that you're itching to get. After this, The progression of the session, as you all know, is that we're now going to go to higher level, slightly higher level. It's now GMAT style questions 600 to 700 level. Tell me you're all ready and excited in the yes no poll. And or let's do one thing, just straight go into the still solving. That's how I judge your excitement that you're all ready for the next level. Give me 1 second. Okay, still solving time. Okay, 37 people, 38 people are ready. The others are not ready for more. I thought everybody clarified their concepts and the rust was taken off. Good, good. That's the energy we like. More still solving. Okay, I'm now going to show you the very first question in this. This is the GMAT style question. Good luck, everyone. Last 15 seconds. Please make sure you mark your answers in 15 seconds. All right, great results here. 70% of you marked option C, which is correct, and 2%, 3%, 7% marked A, B, and D as well. So let's just get started. Let's discuss this one. This was based on whatever we built in the warm-up section. So if you understood that properly, then this should have been a breeze, and we see the high accuracy here to prove that. So 16x plus 32 greater than 48x plus 96. I said in the beginning we have to get the variables on one side and the numbers, the constants on the other. So here what we're doing is we're just subtracting 48x on both sides and then subtracting 32 on both sides. So that way this is where we get now taking the minus 1 to the right side, a negative number should flip the inequality. So from a greater than sign, it became less than. If somebody forgot to do that, they would get x greater than minus 2, which is what you have in both of A and B. If it's just greater than minus 2 and you don't think about anything positive or negative, you might have marked B. Otherwise, you might have marked A. So all those people who marked A and B, tell me in the yes no pod if this is what happened. You did not, you forgot to consider the sign flip. Okay, so we have 60% of you who said yes, oh, 50-50. All right, this is constantly changing. I'll stop here. So while 56% of you say yes, it was that problem. 44% of you also say it's not that. Why else would you mark options A and B? Because there's no way we're getting greater than -2. If you correctly do this, you're going to get less than -2. And when you see less than -2, it's option C. People who've marked option D, in fact, marked less than 2. They missed the negative sign altogether. They divided it, yes. They flipped the sign, yes. But they just did not put the minus sign. If you did anything else, any other place that you faltered and you got the wrong answer, tell that to me in the short answer pod. I want to understand why and what reasons were there for you to get this wrong. Only people who got this wrong. If I covered it correctly, tell me that it's the sign flip and it's the silly mistake in option D. If it's anything else, tell me. Or first of all, tell me in the yes no pod if it is something else. Just mark yes if it's some other reason, and then tell me in the short answer pod what that reason. Okay, so just one person says it was some other reason. Two people say it's the same reason. Okay, so we didn't get anything in the short answer pod. I will move on. I'm going to now show you question number 2. Please mark still solving to tell me you're ready for this one. Come on, let's keep the energy up. It's just 30 people who say they're ready. We have 90 participants here. Just mark still solving to tell me you're ready. Nothing in the short answer pod yet. All right, here's question 2, everyone. Good luck. All right, ending the poll in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so 34% of you marked A. Oh, that's huge. 48% of you marked B, although it's the majority. The majority is with B, which is correct, but we have a huge majority with A as well. If I tell you once what you missed, you will realize immediately. We had integer x. How can it be minus 5.5? Right? It cannot be minus 5.5. It's an integer. So from the range that we had, if you realize this one point, you have to read the question very carefully. There are constraints given in the question, so be more careful about this. So let's discuss this. This first inequality, if you solve, this is exactly what we had the last time. So you will get x less than minus 2, while the second inequality, if you solve, you'll have greater than equal to minus 5.5. So when you take both of them together, because there's an and between them, both of them are true, what you ultimately get about x is this, that it is greater than or equal to minus 5.5, but it is less than minus 2. So all the values of x in this range are going to work for us. But I don't want all the values, I want the minimum value. So first of all, let me see all the possible values. So what are the integers in this range? Minus 5, minus 4, minus 3, and the minimum out of them is minus 5, which is option B. So everybody who marked option A did not read the question carefully. Do you own up to that? Just mark yes if you understand you did not read the question carefully. Yes, I'm glad you're all honestly telling me that you did not read the question carefully. Use the time that you have very wisely. Read every word in the question. That's how this entire game is played. The concepts are not very difficult every time, but the testing, the way they're tested, is super smart. They know how they can trap us. The exam is very smart that way. So you have to be smarter. You have to be extra careful. See how we have this in the takeaway. You have to read the question statement properly, pay special attention to the constraints given. So here the constraint was that it's an integer. At every step, make sure you keep the intermediate values within the given constraints. So you have to keep thinking about the constraints every time. Although here really the thing happened towards the end when you had to be super careful. Tell me if you all understand that in the yes no poll. Tell me if everybody is comfortable with this now. Perfect. I love when you say 100% confident. Okay, so it's time for question number three. Oh, you've already marked still solving. Good. So 22 still solving I already have. Let's have a few more. 85 participants we have. Let's have 50 people ready for this and let's get into question number three. Okay, that's great speed. Come on, 42 people already there. Some people have marked E already. Well, here's question number three. Good luck, everyone. Okay, I'll be ending the poll in 10 more seconds. Please make sure you have your answers. Perfect. Okay. So we have the answers here. Well, this is very interesting. Just see the results. 42% of you marked option A. So the majority went with A, and it is wrong. 11% went with B, which is also incorrect. So it's already 53% of the people who are wrong. C, another 3% makes it 56% wrong again. 30% of you got this right, just 30%. So the majority this time got it wrong. Wow. So we have to be extra careful this time. First of all, I think I already know why this went wrong, but I want to understand from you. I have brought in the yes no poll. Tell me if it was because of the fact that you didn't realize that z squared is always positive. Tell me if it's that. Okay, the results are really mixed. It's completely flipping every second. 63% of you say yes, it was that. You had missed that z squared is always positive, and the other 38% said, okay, you didn't miss that. So that was not why you got it wrong. But a huge percentage here, 16 people to be specific, said that they missed the fact that it's always positive. And that's what did the thing. That's why you got it wrong. Think about it. If this product has to be negative and z squared is always positive, then z squared plus 4, you in fact add an extra 4 to it, it's always positive. I mean, even if z squared is, z cannot be 0 even because the product is negative, right? No, in fact, sorry, z can be negative, but even if it's negative, z squared plus 4 is definitely going to be positive. And so if this first part is positive, then the product is negative only because the second one is negative. So z squared minus 2 is negative, which means z squared is less than 2. And that's it. You had to take care of the greater than equal to 0 part. Well, super silly mistake with the signs. Yes, it will always be positive. We knew, but should we include 0 and 2? Why was it confusing? 0 has to be included. If you get the answer as z squared less than 2, then even then that doesn't tell you anything about the 0. Z squared, actually it's going to be positive. So it should not really be greater than equal to 0. It should strictly be greater. Um, the no, why again? Let me understand this question. You said, should we include 0 and 2 was confusing. Okay, let me answer that one more time. The answer that we get on solving this is that z squared is less than 2. It's strictly less than 2. And that is why, of course, we should not include 2, which I'm sure you're seeing option B. That is where it is included. So that's the only difference between B and D, and B is incorrect for that very reason. B has included 2 while you actually do not have it in the answer. While z squared of course can be 0, as I just said, z squared is non-negative. We already went over this. Non-negative means it's either positive or 0. But in any case, z squared plus 4 had to be positive. So I'm glad everybody realized this was just a silly mistake. You did not take care of the basics that you knew. You started solving this like any other inequality, any other inequality where you have maybe z squared you considered as x, and then you thought, oh, it looks like a quadratic inequality, but you didn't take care of the very simple constraint in the problem. This is exactly what I talked about the previous one, that the constraint here is super important. Okay, with this now, I'm going to go into question number 4. I'm reopening the poll. Please mark still solving to tell me you're ready. Okay, here's question 4. Good luck, everyone. 15 seconds before I end the poll. 10 seconds, sorry. Okay, so we have 68% of you marking C, and that is the correct answer. Even now, 11% went with D, and a total of 10% went with A and B. This is the question, this is the expression we just solved in the previous question. And you already knew the answer to this, to the range at least. It was everything from 0 to 2, including just 0. So if z is an integer, then z squared could be what? It could be 0 or 1. In that case, of course, my z would be 0, 1 or minus 1. So these are the two values you can take. That's it. You had to just work with the one range that you had. Think again. Z squared is this. If z is an integer, then z squared is also an integer. And the integers in this range are 0 and 1. Now, since it had to be the square of an integer, 0 and 1 are both squares of integers. We quickly checked that. 0 squared is equal to 0, and 1 squared or minus 1 squared is equal to 1. Okay, now this brings us to the end of warm up, of 600, 700 level questions. What we saw here was changing the sign of the inequality when you multiply by a negative number. So your inequality flips. You then saw z squared is always non-negative, a perfect square, which is the square of a number. You also saw the wavy line method. You saw how we can simplify an equation to bring it to a known form. You saw how constraints are super important. Remember that question you just forgot about integers? That's what it's about. And you saw how reading the question statement is super, super important. Tell me in the short answer pod, what is it that you're now taking away after having come from the warm up? What is it? What extra stuff did you learn in this 600, 700 bracket? And how do you feel about now the 700 plus level that we're going to? Okay, I see some questions about didn't those make three integers? Read the question again. Same tip. I'm not asking how many values of z. I'm asking how many values of z squared. Can z squared be minus 1? You will get your answer from there. Good. So we see we have to be careful, read questions properly, you're feeling confident, concepts are clearer. You say, I worry how tricky 700 questions will be. Well, if you read them carefully and you remember everything you learned in the warm-up and in these four questions, I promise you'll find them very easy, very nice, and like a breeze. So here I am going to take you till those questions now, to the 700 level questions. I will just clear the answers. Tell me by still solving, clicking on still solving, that you're ready for the hard stuff now. Three people have marked option E. You already know the answer to the next one? Still solving is the option that you have after E. Just mark still solving to tell me you're ready. Not any other answer. You don't even know the question yet. All right. So here is question number 5, your first hard question above 700 level. Good luck. Last 30 seconds before I end the poll. All right, so we have the results now. 13% of you marked B, 7% went with C, 5% with D, 54% with E. All right, so great, the majority is correct. The answer is E. Let's discuss this together. This is a hard question, the first hard one you had. So let's take this nice and slow. Here's inequality 1 that you had, and here's inequality 2. Now we want to find the positive difference between minimum x and minimum y. Positive difference just means when you have two numbers, you subtract the smaller one from the bigger one. That's all you have to do. Now, in these two inequalities that you have right now, I see them having different signs. This is a greater than inequality, this is a less than inequality. So even if I try to add them right now, I will face problems because we don't have the same signs, and you know the rule. You can only that have the same signs. Another problem with this is that you have x and y on the left here in number one, and here you have y on the right side and the constant on the left side. So the form in which these are written is also different. So step one should be to get both of them in the same form. Here's the first one. X plus 2y greater than 20. Let's get the constant here. So x plus 2y minus 20 is greater than 0. That's it. This other one now, 3x minus 30 less than minus y, you'll need a little more work with this one. First of all, let's just get y and everything on the left side, just how you obtained equation 1 here, everything on one side and just 0 on the other. So here also you just add y to get this. But the problem, as I said, was that they have different signs. This is greater than, this is less than. How do you flip it? Well, when you multiply a negative number or you divide both sides by a negative number, the inequality flips. So this time we will deliberately use that tool. We will try to flip it by multiplying by a negative number. So you multiply minus 1 on both sides of it. So the left side becomes minus 3x minus y plus 30, and the sign flips. The right side, of course, minus 0 is just 0, so that side does not change. Now the two inequalities I have the same sign and they're in the same form. You have both of them as something x, say ax plus by plus c greater than 0. Now what I can do is, since I want to find out x and y only, my attempt would be to eliminate one of them at a time. So to eliminate one of them, you know the drill. You know that you have to have the same number with opposite signs. So here you have 1 with x and minus 3 with x. So if this was 3, you would be done. Similarly, here is 2 and here is minus 1. So if this was minus 2, you would be done again. So I would just work on one of them. I will try to turn this into a 3. And how I'll do that is I'll multiply the first inequality by 3. And that gives me 3x plus 6y minus 60 greater than 0. My inequality does not change. Why? Because I multiplied by a positive number, which is 3. Now the two inequalities that you have, these two, they have the same coefficient with x with opposite signs, of course, and they can be added. So you can add 2 and 3, and what you get as a result is you manage to eliminate the x completely. So you will have minus y plus 6y, which is what? 5y minus 30 greater than 0. So what did I say? Minus 5y, sorry, positive 5y minus 30 is greater than 0. Then when you divide both sides by 5, you will get this that you see written here. 5
minus 6 greater than 0, and you get y greater than 6 from here. So I'm bringing in the yes no poll. I'm opening that. Tell me if you understand how we eliminated and how we got y till. Okay, so around 75% of you say you understood this, which is good. The people who did not understand this, remember this is just an application of elimination that we saw before this. If you go through the concept files and go through the session recording that we're going to give you, redo those questions, you will feel more confident for sure. Now at this stage, I already have something about why. Now I will still want to do something because I still have no information about x at all, right? So what you can do is pick up this second inequality that you had and pick up this fifth one. Both of them have the same sign, greater than, greater than. And if you see the coefficients of y, it is minus 1 and plus 1. Okay, this is perfect for a situation where we want to eliminate the y, right? So to eliminate the y, you just add these two, you will get rid of the y, you will have minus 3x minus 6 plus 30 minus 3x plus 24 is positive. You solve that, you get minus x greater than minus 8, divide both sides by minus 1, because of which the sign of the inequality will flip, and you will have x less than 8. Yet again, tell me if you're comfortable till this stage of getting the range for x. Perfect, that's perfect. Okay, after that, what we have is we have something about x, something about y. You have x less than 8. Now remember this constraint from the question that x and y are positive integers. So even if x is less than 8, it still has to be greater than 0. That means you can't just go anywhere. You wanted to find the minimum value of x, right? But minimum, if I just say it's less than 8, then there's no minimum. You could go to negative numbers. You could go as small as you want to, right? But here, because it has to be positive, you have this range of values of x between 0 and 8. And in that range, the minimum value of x is 1. Finally, since we had y greater than 6, what's the minimum that y can be? Something which is greater than 6 but still has to be the smallest possible. It will be 7. Please ignore this 8. It's y greater than 6, exactly what we had here. So now you have the minimum values of x and y both, and you wanted to find the positive difference between them. As I said, positive difference is just the big number minus the small number. So 7 minus 1, which is 6, and the answer is E. So yes, the majority did go with E. The 12% that went with option B, you took the maximum value of x. So if x was between 0 and 8, then the maximum it could go is 7. And then you probably just saw, oh, this is also 7, that is also 7, so the difference between them is 0. So this is small mistakes that you might make, not read the question carefully, not solve it properly, that can lead you to errors. Everybody, please tell me if this solution, this question is clear. It's okay if you find it hard yet, but tell me if you're taking a lot from this one. Tell me in the short answer pod, what is it that this question taught you? Okay, learned the definition of positive difference. Great. Read each and every part of the question. Yes, that's the main point. You have to read very carefully, no matter what it is, algebra or arithmetic or geometry. Read question carefully. I'm glad you're taking that away from this. You have to be super careful about what the question says. Yeah, most of you say that is the biggest takeaway from this one. That means conceptually you felt confident about this one. That is not what you learned really. There wasn't more to the concepts. We were just building up on what we had learned till now. So it's great that you see what is the big thing. Yeah, minus 6 can be eliminated straight away. That's a good point because it had to be the positive difference. And even then, just see how we had people marking it. So it happens. We sometimes just lose sight of the information that's right in front of our eyes. Now please mark still solving to tell me you're ready for the second hard question of the day. Okay, we have people marking C and E as well. You don't know the answers, please mark still solving. All right. Here is question number 6 for you. Good luck. Right. 15 more seconds before I end the poll. All right. So 27% of you marked option A, which is the correct answer. 2% went with B. 35%, the majority, went with C, which is incorrect. 6% with D and 23% with E. So a huge percentage really, 35 and 23, 58% went with C and E, and both of them are wrong. C is when you thought you needed both statements, and E, in fact, is when you thought the statements are not sufficient even if you take them together. So that's way away from the correct answer, that statement 1 alone was was sufficient. Let's see how. Question is Z positive? All you're given is that Z is an integer. So this is what you're given in the question stem. Then first statement tells you that the absolute value of z minus 2, sorry, this is again something from the question stem. You know that absolute value of z is less than 6. So we saw this warm-up question about absolute values, which means the numbers whose numerical values, whose magnitudes, ignoring the signs, are less than 6. So it's all those numbers that lie between minus 6 and 6. And since z is an integer, this is the exact collection of values that z can take. So it's 11 possible values of z. This is all that the question stem gave us, right? Now the first statement was this: absolute value or mod of z minus 2 is greater than 3. Now be very careful here. One way is that you substitute this, as we saw earlier. So you just start calling z minus 2 as t. So it's the mod of t which is greater than 3. So which are those numbers whose numerical value is greater than 3? So it'll be every time your magnitude, ignoring the sign, is more than 3. So essentially, that happens if it's 3, beyond 3 on the right hand side. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or you're even smaller than minus 3. So minus 4, minus 5, minus 6, minus 7, all of these. These will be numerically greater than 3 if you ignore the signs. So this is what you get for t, which means the range for t is here, t less than minus 3 or t greater than 3. Then you can just put back your z minus 2 in place of t, and then solve it. Now what's happening is z minus 2 the absolute value is greater than 3. As I just said, this meant your t is greater than 3 or your t is less than minus 3. So all I've done is, in place of t, I've put back z minus 2. When you solve this first one, you get z is greater than 5. When you solve the second one, you get that z is less than minus 1. So it's this or this. Both of them are part of our solutions. So both of them can happen. Now here we're saying z can be both positive and negative. Now here just notice one thing. We already know the possible values that z can have, right? We saw that in the question stem. It could take values only from minus 5 to plus 5. That means if somebody says it's greater than 5, I can just reject this case altogether, because it's impossible from what I have in the question. From the question stem, I already know it has to be between minus 5 and 5. So somebody says, oh, no, it's even more than 5, then that's impossible for us. So the only case that we have from here is this, that it's less than minus 1. And then if you combine it with what you know, that it's between minus 6 and 6, you will get this. So the values of z really could be minus 5, minus 4, minus 3, and minus 2. So therefore, my question really, if you remember, was, is z positive? So here, because these are the possible values of z, I can surely say, no, it's not positive. And so statement 1 is sufficient. Tell me in the yes/no pod if you understand why statement 1 is sufficient. It's really about rejecting the case that did not make sense because of the question stem. Okay, so 75% of you are comfortable with this. Great, let's get going. Let's now see statement 2 that we have. So statement 2 says that absolute value of z is equal to 2. Wow, so what is the number whose mod is equal to 2? It's only if it's 2 or minus 2. This is super simple. If it's plus 2 or minus 2, and my question was, is it positive? Then I will get a yes if I see plus 2. I will say no if I see minus 2. That means I don't have a sure answer to this question. It could be positive or negative. So statement 2 is not sufficient alone, and therefore my answer is option A. So this is 27% of you got this correct, and a lot of you thought it was C, 35%, who thought that you need to have this second piece of information that is equal to 2 to get the answer. I hope everybody who got this wrong is clear about why A is the answer. Tell me one more time in the yes no pod if you're comfortable with this. Perfect. Wonderful. So 80% of you, 75% of you, almost 80, right? Wonderful, are now comfortable with this, understand why this is sufficient. Now, there's one little thing. I just read a comment that this gives you negative values as well. Well, data sufficiency questions, it's saying, is Z positive? That means you will call a statement sufficient if it gives you a sure yes it is positive, or if it gives you no it's not positive. This first statement gave you a possible, a sure short answer that yes, it is negative. And that's why it was sufficient. You could answer the question. With this, I am going to take you to the last challenge question for today. Tell me, sorry, the second last question. Wow, we have more. Tell me, still solving, if you're ready for this. All right, here's question 7. Good luck, everyone. Ten more seconds before I end the poll. Okay. Very interesting results this time. I will not tell you what the correct answer is. We'll first discuss this and then we'll talk about this. So we have 16% for A, 39% for B, 2%, just 1% for C, 33% for D, and 4% for E. Okay, so B and D really got big chunks, 39 and 33. A was the next one, 16%. Let's just get going. Let's just discuss this. It's again a data sufficiency question. We wanted to know whether A is less than B, and we have two statements to analyze that. So if we just see the question statement itself, it gives us nothing. It's just asking us a question and gives us no information whatsoever. So we straight go to our statements. Here's statement number one is which tells us that mod of A minus B is equal to B minus A. Now you know something about absolute value. You know if mod x is equal to y, then y is the absolute value of a number, which means y has to be non-negative. Non-negative, which means positive or 0. Well, y will be 0 if x is 0, otherwise y will always be positive. So y is greater than equal to 0. So if you just compare this with what we have, this is what is y for us. So b minus a is greater than equal to 0, which means b is greater than equal to a. Now this means b is either greater than a, like this, or b is equal to a. But my question was, is B definitely greater than A or not? So in the case that they are equal, I will say no, B is not greater. But in this second case, I will say yes, it is greater. So my answer is changing. No, yes, no, yes. I'm not getting a sure answer from statement 1. And that is why statement 1 alone is not sufficient. All those people who had marked option A, tell me if you understand why statement 1 is insufficient. And also tell me why you thought it was sufficient in the short answer pod. What did you miss, really? Okay, so everybody says the equal to part. You forgot about the part that b minus a could also be equal to 0. You probably just thought, oh, it's an absolute value, it has to be positive. So everybody who marked a missed this one thing. So make sure you now take this as a learning, and always, always remember this absolute value can also be 0 if the number you're working with is 0. Next, let's go to statement 2, which is a minus a upon b less than 1. Even if I show this, tell me one thing in the short answer pod. What is the one thing I told you about multiplying or dividing something in an inequality? What is the one rule that governs multiplication? Has to be b. Yeah, b has to be positive. Sign is important. So I see two people answering this. A lot of you probably had forgotten this. Look here. If B here in my second statement is positive, then yes, A is less than B. It would be yes. But if B is negative, and when you multiply a negative number on both sides, the inequality flips. That means my inequality would become A greater than B. So you get yes and no both. That's why statement 2 is not sufficient. 38% of you, 19 people to be specific, had missed this. How did this happen despite talking about this so many times? Maybe because when you have so much going on in a single question, you miss out on such basic things. And that is where the question goes wrong. That is where you lose points. You don't have to forget your basics, your roots when you go to the complicated stuff. Take the roots with you, they're only going to strengthen you. Well, now that both my statements are individually insufficient, I will take them together. What I had from statement 1 was this: either they're equal or A is less than B. And statement 2 told me either A is less than B or A is greater than B. So when you look at these two together, the only situation that's common to them is that A is less than B. So if both statements are true, that can only happen if A is less than B. C is the correct answer. So congratulations to that one person who got this question right among the 68 people that we have right now here. So very, very good. I'm glad whosoever got this, everybody, it's great. Congratulations to you. You were the one person who paid attention and did not miss any point at all. I hope everybody understood how we just combined these two together. We had less than, we had equal to, we had less than and greater than. The only thing that's common is the less than. Okay, one person says I marked E, it should have been C. Okay, so you lost something to not being very careful. Yet again, you get the same point, right? Be careful on the question. Be careful on the question. Read everything. Missed the last step. I'm glad the congratulations are pouring in. Yeah, you must be very excited, whoever got this correct. Well, with this energy, everybody take this huge takeaway with you. Be careful. Do not miss out on what you've learned in the previous questions. Take that all with you to the next question, and you'll see the magic happen. The magic is not anywhere else, it's within you. Please mark still solving to tell me you're ready for question number 8, which is, yes, the last question. All right, here we go. Good luck, everyone. 30 seconds. 30 seconds before I end the poll. All right, here we have the results. 13% A, 4% B, 31% C, nobody with D, majority 35% with E. Well, the majority is not correct. I'll tell you the correct answer after we discuss this. Let's see. So it's a data sufficiency question. You wanted to find if z is greater than 2, and we have two statements. So in the question stem itself, you clearly see there's nothing. You're just asked a question whether z is greater than 2. There's no constraint. There's nothing given in the question statement. So you straight come to the first statement, which is this. Z minus 2 squared, the mod of that is greater than 4. Now here's a little thing. What you have inside the absolute value is z minus 2 squared, which is either 0 or positive, right? If it's a 0 or a positive number, then what is the absolute value even going to do? It's not going to change it. The mod of 0 is 0, the mod of a positive number is the same positive number. So you don't really need this absolute value symbol there. You can just say this thing is equal to what you have inside it. So this is just equal to z minus 2 squared. So that's what I'm doing here in the first step. I'm just removing the absolute value and writing it like this. These are supposed to be powers. So this is 2 squared. We have just written the 4 as 2 squared. Then in the next step, you just subtract 2 squared on both sides to get z minus 2 squared minus 2 squared is positive. Now at this stage, it's an identity. It's a squared minus b squared, which is positive. Now you know what's a squared minus b squared? That's a minus b, a plus b, where your a is z minus 2 and your b is just 2. So this is how you write a minus b, a plus b. You simplify that and you get this sweet little expression, z minus 4 times z is positive. Then you have the wavy line. The 0 points are going to be 4 and 0. You just mark them here on the number line. Check in the leftmost region. Say you just put minus 1. So if you put minus 1, this is minus 5 times minus 1, which is going to be positive. That is why you start above the number line here. Then you keep alternating up and down. Then you see what the question wants. It wants greater than 0. So greater than 0 is here also and here also. That means z can actually be less than 0 or it can also be greater than 4. My question was, is it greater than 2? Well, if it's here, if it's less than 0, then obviously it's not greater than 2. So you get no from here. But if it's greater than 4, then yes, it is greater than 2. That means I don't get a sure answer to my question. And that is why statement 1 alone is not sufficient. Now here we had 13% of you marking A. Tell me in the yes no poll here if you understand why statement 1 is insufficient. Thank you. So we have 100% of you saying that yes, you understand why statement 1 is insufficient. With that, let's move to statement 2. You had this thing here, 8x minus 4k, the absolute value of that is equal to z. And it's the z about which, you have the entire question. Now, the simple part here is its absolute value of something. And if it's the absolute value of something, it means it's non-negative, greater than or equal to 0. So z is greater than equal to 0, but that means there are two cases. It's either greater than 0 or equal to 0, which means this question, whether it's greater than 2 or not, I don't know. All I know about z is it's something which is 0 or more. I don't know anything about z and 2 together. So statement 2 alone is insufficient. Tell me, everybody, in the yes no poll, if you understand. Perfect. Please ask any questions in the Q&A pod, not in the short answer pod. I will not be able to respond to every question like that. So, all right, we were here. Statement 2, not sufficient alone. Then, since both of them failed alone, you move to the two statements together. So z minus 2 whole squared greater than 4, and this second statement, what did you have? From the first one, you had this, that it's either less than 0 or greater than 4. And from the second one, you had it's either 0 or greater than 0. Just see which ones out of these can happen together. Z greater than 4 and greater than 0. That means a positive number which is greater than 4. This is the only thing that can happen together. Think about it. Z cannot be 0 and negative both at the same time. Z cannot be 0 and greater than 4 at the same time. So the only two things that can happen at the same time are these as highlighted. So when you combine these two, it's essentially just saying that Z is greater than 4. Now, if there's a number which is greater than 4, it's obviously greater than 2, right? And that is what the question was. Is it greater than 2 or not? And so both conditions together are sufficient. Tell me if you understand this. And also tell me in the short answer pod, what is it from this question that you faltered at? Which stage did you make a mistake at? Great, I can see a lot of you have now understood how this works. But the faltering points, where did you falter? In the stage when you were combining them? Did that was that the mistake? Or as I kept explaining during the statements, what kind of mistakes did you make for this one? What are your takeaways? I'm so sorry, I had forgotten to open the poll. Please type your answers now. Thank you. Okay, so you say you forgot to combine. When you finally bring the statements together, you have to combine. Constraints x and k, constants x and k were confusing, did not understand statement 2. You thought z minus 2 squared had to be positive, didn't think about the 0. Okay, remembering that z can also be 0, that is the part you faltered at. Great. I missed on the second statement. Okay, so a lot of people missed in the second statement the z equal to 0. Somebody asked a question here, again, that is for the Q&A part, but you're saying, what if z is 1, 2, 3? Well, this is exactly what you saw here. When you combine them, the only region that you get on combining is greater than 4. Z greater than 1, 2, and 3, that means both these statements are not sufficient together. When you're taking them together, both of them have to be true, and that will only happen if z is greater than 4. All right, so with this, the hard questions are done. Now tell me the overall takeaways. How is it that you see yourself evolved? What is it that you did not know? What are the biggest takeaways from today? What is it that you liked the most about the session? Yes, how to combine statements carefully. That's a very important point. Be sure to combine statements. Enjoyed seeing the perspective of solving problems. Great. It's all about the approach, the correct approach to solve something. Feel more focused. Yes, focus to GMAT, approaches that work on the GMAT. The GMAT rewards people who solve things with the right methods. Shortcuts don't work every time. paying attention to small details. That's great. So I can see great representation of GMAT questions. Thank you. So, and you saw how we go on this journey from simple questions, warm-up questions to this. So this journey here today shows you really how you can master the GMAT quant. You can improve from a low score if only you focus on the learning. You learn with the right methods and stay consistent with them. So it's 100% conceptual understanding, first of all, that you need, and then it's the ability to apply process skills. That means at every stage, you infer something, you take out the meaning from something, you translate something from math. From English to math. That's how you see how to solve it. So both these things together, concepts plus application, will take you a long way to scoring your target score. Now, here, this is a very interesting story that we have, a success story. This one is about a person called Krish, and it's actually for all those people who think they are good in GMAT Quant. You can read his verified review on GMAT Club also. This is from the GMAT Club. Krish had always done very well in Quant. But when it came to the GMAT, he was stumped. He was super confused. He constantly faltered while trying to answer GMAT questions. He used to fall into familiar traps. That's exactly what you saw today. The same traps over and over again. You kept faltering there. And that's what happened with him. He was so frustrated with the lack of progress that he was showing, he decided to change his approach completely. And this was for the good. He started following this methodical approach, using the right methods, solving them the right way, and especially for the DS, for data sufficiency questions. Once he made these changes, he improved his score to Q51, which is the highest you can get on quant. And he scored a GMAT 740. See what he says? I've always been topping my math classes. e-GMAT courses do not teach you tips, tricks, as I said towards the beginning. Tips and tricks don't work everywhere. You might reach a 48, not a 51. We teach you the simplest methods that work every way, every question. Another success story, let me show you this one more. This is about Leonardo. This is somebody who has not been excellent with GMAT Quant, and he was stuck at a Q45. He was unable to cross it despite working really, really hard with it. Then he needed a high score also because he wanted to apply to finance focused schools, such as NYU and Wharton. That is where he wanted to apply, and Tepper, etc. But he was not getting the score that he wanted. Then what he did was he used the custom quizzing feature on our platform. And then that ensured he actually improved. And then ultimately, because of this wonderful score that he had on quant and that excellent verbal score, he did get admitted to Wharton, Stern, Tepper. Right now he's at Wharton. More energy here. This is what the Scholaranium has. This tells you what you should do. This platform is designed to give you exactly the problems, the places where you're stuck. So you will know, okay, quadratic equations, you're 92% there. Inequalities, you're just 50% there. So you will know very nicely what is it that you want to work with. Exponents are 100%, so you don't have to stress too much on that. So this system that we have, it tells you where to focus next. It's what happens, it's what helped everybody, and this is what can help you as well. I'll show you one more success story. This is Mazibar. He benefited from this progressive learning architecture that we have at e-GMAT. He was able to cement his basics before taking on difficult questions. That's the deal, you have to be very good with the basics first, and then you can go to the next level. In case his basics were not strong, he was given feedback at the right time. So he was able to improve to Q45, which is the 59th percentile. This was a huge improvement over his starting score. So if you read these reviews, you'll see how somebody goes from a very low score to a very high score just with the right kind of preparation. Here's one more person, is Guillermo. What you have here is this person is, it's again an amazing story of somebody who had extremely strong determination to study at the top B schools. He had a starting score of just Q38, which is the 38th percentile, incidentally. He realized he needed a very nice quant score if he wanted an admit from Wharton and GSB Chicago. And the only way to improve from such a low score was to truly focus on the learning. Things which he did using our video lessons. He didn't have a lot of time, so he used analytics in the quant scholaranium that I just showed, which shows you which topics are you really weak at. He used those analytics and he isolated the areas where he needed the most help. So in that little time that he had, he used the platform to recognize what is it that he wanted to work on, and that which he worked on did wonders for him ultimately. So, all of these success stories are proof that if you want to ace the GMAT quant, you can do it. You just have to focus on learning and adopting good habits. Good habits are doing them the right way. Yes, there's a big difference between Q50 and 51. The percentile difference, if you check, it's huge. Now, next steps for all of you: ensure that you get 200% clarity in your concepts. Ensure that you solve questions in a step by step fashion. Nothing, no shortcuts, nothing. Take every step. Become an active reader of the question statement. That's what you see. You saw that in a lot of the questions today, that you have to read your questions super carefully and trust the test maker. He will not throw anything at you that you cannot solve. So if you see a question that just looks super difficult, it's not because you've not seen that before, or it's an alien concept. It's maybe because you're not thinking the right way. Believe in your skills. You have everything in your arsenal to solve such problems. Just trust yourself and keep going. Make sure you review all algebra concepts that we are giving to you in the free trial. You have linear inequalities, you have quadratic inequalities, absolute value equations, and absolute value inequalities. It's a lot of valuable content that you're getting for free. Also, solve the practice questions that you get in the PDF that will be shared with you, and the algebra questions in Scholaranium that you'll find on our platform. Make sure you make best use for all of this. You will get a lot of practice questions such as these. Spend a lot of time on the concepts and then come to these questions. I hope you all enjoyed the session. Tell me in the short answer pod if you're excited about studying more in algebra and just perfecting your level. Whatever you're at, you're ready to take this to the next level. Final takeaways, everybody. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. Yes, we will keep coming with more and more sessions for you. We have to see you score really, really high. That'll be great. Thank you very much. Thank you. You all loved the session. We loved being here with you. See you next time in another session. Good day, everyone. Bye bye.